You're listening to Why Germany podcast, the best place for relocation stories and expert tips, sponsored by Over the Offek, relocation agency to Germany, with your host, Eden Levine.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Why Germany podcast. My name is Eden Levine and with me is Dewi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be here and share about my experience in Germany.
I really am excited for you to share it as well. But before we do that, let's start with why Germany?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, the first thing why I wanted to come to Germany was because in 2015, I think that was the breakthrough when German economy was going up, was rising, while in China was going down. So I was living in China before coming to Germany. So I think that was one of the reasons. And secondly, I was looking back then higher education, which is MBA program. And Germany is one of the most affordable MBA program in the whole world, I must say. Comparing to the US or Singapore or France or Spain, any other country. So yeah, that was my two big reasons. And thirdly is because back then I knew that I wanted to start a family. And my husband is German by nationality. So we thought, okay, German government support family relatively well, and I think if you're a newcomer here, they also support you in many other, in many other area as well. So yeah, those are my three big reasons why Germany.
So it seems they're all connected basically because economy brings affordable education and also some social support and so on. So that's
correct.
The base is the same. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I think we have a glimpse of the idea of why Germany for you. Could you please now take us as far back as you need and explain to us the whole background of what brought you to Germany?
Yeah, so just to give you a little bit background where I come from. So I am originally from Indonesia, from Jakarta. So I left Indonesia when I was 18. Let's say to explore a new world. I wanted to learn new language. I wanted to study somewhere else. And my father back then kind of encouraged me to go to China because of the Chinese heritage. And he wanted me to learn Chinese. So I went to China in 2006 to learn Chinese, and eventually I got a scholarship there. So I stayed in Beijing, to be precise, for almost 10 years in Beijing. So I learned the language, and after I got the bachelor degree in economic and trades, and after I started to work in China, because back then looking for a job in China was very easy, I must say, after graduation. I worked there for almost 5 years. And after almost 10 years, it's really time. China was great for learning. It was really good for young people. I would highly recommend if you wanted to go to China, explore something. But then I was in my late 20s, and that was the time when I thought, okay, so what's next? I don't think China was the right place to build a family. It was too dynamic, and I wanted, both me and my husband, we wanted something a bit more, calm, a bit more balanced. That's how we started to search what country is good, what I wanted to do, and what we wanted to do, both as well. And I decided I wanted to pursue a higher education, which is in MBA. It's a master in business administration. So I searched that came then Leipzig, where you are also based, because Leipzig is really great place for students. It has relatively low living costs, and it has great university. So this is where I studied as well. So I moved to Germany in 2015. So first I moved to Leipzig to study, and while my husband's still in Beijing back then. So we were in long distance relationship for 1 year before he moved to Germany, because he was still working there. back then. Yeah, so that's how I started my journey in Germany. After 1 year of my MBA, and my husband got a job in Stuttgart, so where we are living right now. And then we wanted to, of course, to be together again. So I followed him here in Stuttgart. At the beginning, I worked at Robert Bosch as a intern because it was part of my MBA program. So that's how I started my career, I must say. And after the Robert Bosch, and then, the whole things that I wish I knew before I came to Germany started to kind of coming together. Language, driving license, and any other certification that you need in order to not only survive in Germany, but to thrive, for you to live comfortably here. So after my 6 months of internship, I decided, okay, I will not be able to have a good career. That's what I thought back then, right? Like, I will not be able to have a good career, or at least in the job that I would like, if I don't speak German. That's how it. Maybe you can just, do an easy job doing market research, etc., using English, but then you won't be able to socialize with your German colleagues. So that's something that I realized, and I was like, okay, learning language is not a why night. It's not a why night thing. Yeah, it's gonna take time. So back then, I decided, okay, how about let's build a family while learning German. So I don't want to waste time back then. So thankfully, I was pregnant very quickly. And then I finished my internship as well. I was like, perfect. I am gonna take a break then, really leveling up my skill, so my German skill, being pregnant as well, learning how, what's the whole pregnancy thing here in Germany, going to doctor and who speaks English. You need Hebamme, which is a midwife as well for delivery. So there's so much going on, especially for me, for somebody who just arrived in Germany a year or so. So I really didn't know much. I didn't have many friends back then, especially German friends or friends who could help me in Stuttgart. And so it was a lot of like ups and downs. So I decided to take a break, learn the language, be pregnant, delivery, just learning the whole living situation. Yeah. So after that, after my son was born, then my second kind of like an aha moment. So my first aha moment was after my MBA program, and I realized, career, you need German. And my second aha moment is after that maternity leave. So I had a maternity leave for 1 year, and I realized, like, okay, now time to look for a job. So I applied more than 200 job applications within 5 months while learning full-time Germans at the IBB back then. IBB, I think IBB or IBB. Um, so yeah, it was really very very stressful, very frustrating. I applied 200 plus application. Nobody wanted me. I had interview, I think in total around 12, 13 interviews. Everybody just rejected me. And I asked some consultant, like career consultant, I was like, why? What's wrong? Why some of my friends who don't even speak German, they can get a really good job being a consultant or being what here and there? Why it took me like so long and so many applications and nobody wanted me? Like what am I missing here? I thought, okay, I have good education here, I have good experience in China, maybe not necessarily in Germany, but none of my friends had experience in Germany as well, as a foreigner. So the consultant told me, could be because you're a new mom, and you're a new mom, you had no experience work experience in Germany, and your German still, I mean, it's good. Your German is good, but it's not like the Germans, you know. So, and that's what I realized. Shit. So, okay. I mean, there's nothing I can do. I'm a mom, and that's a reality. I cannot change that. I just kept going, just kept applying, and so my basically the places where I applied was just Stuttgart, and eventually kind of expand to other places, and eventually I ended up in one job which took me 1 hour to drive one way with car. Yeah. So, and it was a good job, I must say. It fit my profile perfectly. It was really good job, but yeah, the location was not so close, and back then the salary, of course, good. Was not good. It was my first job, right? I just take me, any job, just take me, right? Um, so that's what I did, and I got my first job, and I just had to survive 1.5 year. It was a limited contract anyway, so I thought, okay, I just need this breakthrough. First job, doesn't matter how long, 1 year will be great, and then if I don't like it, I can always switch it, and at least I have the experience already. So that's what I did, and at the end, I stayed in that job for 3 years. They prolonged my contract, and so far until now in Germany, that is one of my best jobs so far, and I really enjoy it despite the whole trouble getting that job. But it was yeah, it was really good job for me. I really liked it. But then after pandemic, everything changed. Right after pandemic, everything changed. And during pandemic as well, I decided we wanted to have a second child. So that's what we did, second child. And then I went again through this maternity leave. But this time, maternity leave was much more pleasant, I would say, because I knew that I got the Arbeitslosengeld as well. Not Arbeitslosengeld, sorry, Elterngeld as well. I got the Elterngeld because I worked already. I paid tax. So yeah, financially, it was much more pleasing, I would say. Yeah, so after the maternity leave, again, the job hunting process continued because I couldn't go back to the previous job, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the whole management, they restructured the whole thing, and my position was not available anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, I got a second job, which was my last job. So it was much better job, better position, of course, better salary as well. But the position is not also in Stuttgart. It's actually based quite far. It's in Aachen. So it's about 4.5 hours from here by car or by train, whatever it is. Yeah, I had to travel a lot since I was in charge for Asia. So I had to travel a lot, and going to office was not easy as well. Yeah, so that was my last job. So I stayed there for about 1.5 year. But things didn't go so well as I thought. Um, there was a lot of going on, but actually, it just didn't fit. I think the job itself was good, but the environment was not something that I was looking for. Because again, I have a family and I needed more flexibility, and I realized, job or earning money is not the only thing that I wanted in my life, and I wanted have a good balance between life and work. So yeah, we decided to part away in June. So since June, I am becoming an entrepreneur. So I am starting my own business. Yay! I am, yes, it's finally, after 15 years of corporate life and having moved one place to another place, and I was so afraid to start something my own because it's unstable, you know how it is, right? But I decided, okay, if I don't do it right now, I'm gonna regret it. So I better do it now. So here I am. I'm a solo entrepreneur. I am content creator. I am also a life and business strategist or coach, as you call. So I help women who are struggling or who are trying to find clarity what they want to do in life and business. Because this was something that I was struggling few years back then. So that's why I was jumping from one place to another place and hustling here and there and grinding, and it didn't make me happy. And here I am. And this is how I met you as well. I am very excited and very happy on this journey.
Awesome. Wow. So much to talk about. And which is great. This is what we're here for. And for those of you who watched us on YouTube and saw my tiny dance when Dewi said that she is going to start with entrepreneurship, I am a huge advocate for women going into that direction. It's not to say that it is for everybody. It has a lot of consequences. It's just that we need to normalize risk taking also, and also to understand that even having a job is a risk. As Dewi just now explained, yes, you can have a job. Yes, it can be a secure money, but everything can happen during this time. You can be laid off.
Absolutely.
Pandemic can kill like your whole industry, which happened to me. And this is something that you can never know. So you might as well do something that also brings you joy from different reasons and not only just a secure money in the bank account. So I'm happy you brought this up. We are for sure going to touch point on that again.
Yes.
But I want to take you back to the beginning of your story, because you said something quite miraculous, like, hey, 18 years of age, I finished my high school, boom, I'm away. This is quite astonishing, since it's a time when a lot of people are like, I have no idea what am I doing with myself, like zero knowledge. And doing this transition for a lot of people, just from, high school to university, or high school to some form of education, or for Israelis, it's to the army, and for other people, it's just maybe just a job, an in-between job until I figure it out. Doing transition like relocation to a different country, that's huge. And it's also, you're saying, hey, it wasn't only like me and my rebellious thought, it was actually supported by family, which is amazing. So tell me, how was it for you, this whole transition?
Well, it was actually very clear. I mean, to be honest, like personally, I'm not so close with my parents. So living 18 years with my parents was miserable. So, but you're still underage, so you couldn't really do anything, right? You're still in high school and you are a lady, in Jakarta, so you couldn't really, rent out or something. It was not possible back then. And so I think my one of like my goal was like, I just want to get out of that cage. That's the only thing that I wanted. I don't care where I'm going. I just want to get out of that cage.
And the further the better.
Yes, the further the better. But of course, China was the first option because I already had a little bit of foundation of Mandarin. That's one. And second, my father had a little bit of contact there, some friends who could help me out with the relocation. As you are in the relocation company, especially somebody who new to new country, you needed some support, whatever it is, whether it's from family or from a company, from professional, you just needed a help because even I spoke a little bit of Mandarin, but I couldn't read. So, and everything was in Mandarin, it's all in Chinese, so I had to, back then, didn't even have a Google translation. So I had to have like dictionary, like.
It's those times that you think like, how did people do that, right? It's like when you have Google Maps and you have Google Translate and you're like, how did people walk around with maps and dictionaries the whole time? And I remember my grandparents had like a whole bookshelf with like dictionaries in many different languages, like Hebrew, something else, and French or something like that. And you imagine them going with books It's crazy.
Yes, it was crazy. And to me, it was even harder because before I moved to Beijing, I was in Xiamen, which was even smaller town, and nobody spoke English. I did not speak English. I did not read Chinese. So my English was terrible, like really terrible. Um, so even during school time, I had to translate 2 times. So like from Mandarin because they only have translation in English because it's an international language. But if I don't understand the English, I had to translate that into Indonesian.
So
So
different
that's how I,
books from one book
yes.
to the other.
But the good thing is that's how I learn English.
Yeah, double.
Yes, double. Yeah. So anyway, so that's basically, my motivation was to get out of the cage and I wanted to see what's out there, to be honest. Like I just wanted the freedom. Like I just wanted to see, what's outside of Indonesia. And, another plus thing is, in Indonesia in high school, you were not allowed to dye your hair. So as soon as I graduated, go out, I dye my hair to blonde.
To blonde, nice. This is
It was
like a
like
full rebellious
rebellious.
phase. Full
Yes,
rebellious phase.
full rebellious phase.
Then I was
Absolutely.
wrong for sure, but interesting. But I'm really curious because I'm sorry to say, but my knowledge about Asia in general, and particular Indonesia, is very limited. So you're saying you did not speak English, but which other languages do you learn in school?
So in school we speak Bahasa, so that is our main language. We also learn English and Chinese. However, it's all just by the book, right? It's all just by the book. I mean, you learn okay grammar, vocabulary, but did I know how to use that? Like on the daily basis? I had
Wow.
zero idea. I only know like, how are you? Good, hello, goodbye, good night. Yeah, so that's it.
Sure, but it seems like first of all, I know that Mandarin is one of the most difficult languages in the world, if not the first one, something like that. Yeah. So already kudos to you that you managed to learn that. Although you did say you had some basic, but as you're saying, like you never had to use it, you never had to practice it somehow. I mean, you do have. You said you also have Chinese heritage, so somewhat maybe there, but not enough to actually survive in China. So I can only imagine how foreign everything looked for you, like I guess for a few months at least, right?
Yes, absolutely. It was, I mean, as I mentioned, like in Xiamen in 2006, was almost 20 years ago, right? Uh, it was pure just Mandarin, like characters Mandarin everywhere. And I brought my dictionary. And back then there was an electronic dictionary, which is like a book. So instead of a thick book,
I
you have
remember
like
that. Oh my
this flip
God.
thing. I mean, I'm glad we had that back then, so I didn't have to carry so heavy. So I had that one, and wherever I go, one thing that I learned was every word that I know, I just try to speak it out loud and pronounce it so that it kind of stick in my head. Because whatever you see on the street out there, I am sure those are the words that you will use on the daily basis. Like every single day, like food. Like all the how do you order food, right? And what's the name of the shops? Is it pharmacy? Is it food shop? Is it supermarket? I mean, it's like your daily basically. And back then I really didn't know how to read. What I knew how to read was probably 1 till 10 because again the heritage. So I spoke kind of a broken Mandarin with my parents, like seriously broken. Like there's 3 different languages when we speak Mandarin with a mix of Indonesian, with a mix of dialect, like Chinese dialect. And then if we don't know any of the words in Mandarin, we just kind of translate it from Indonesian to Mandarin, like literal translation. But sometimes is not correct. So if I use those words in China, like people just laugh at me, like, what is that? Yeah, so I had to do a lot of correction, but I must say, having this, a little bit of background of this language, it helped me to push further because at least I understand, the very basic. Like I could at least order food, even I don't know how to read, but at least, like basic fried rice, just to survive, right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
and then your vocabulary will expand eventually, the longer you live there.
Especially if you're not trying even to use English because you're in somewhere
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's
I
nobody
didn't even
can do that.
speak English.
Exactly.
I had to find friends who are Americans or whoever native speaker who can teach me
Yeah,
English.
good. That's a way as well. So, but you did study in China.
Yes,
Was that in Chinese?
yes, it was in Chinese.
You see, then you go from like how to order fried rice to a whole
I
education
got a
program.
bachelor in Chinese. Yes, I got a
Wow,
bachelor in Chinese economics and trading. Yeah,
crazy.
I survived.
For sure. And in which part did you meet your partner?
So I met my partner when I was still even in university, and then we went to party together. Beijing time, party time. That's how I met him. We actually met in party. I know it doesn't sound very nice, but he's
Amazing.
legit. He's legit.
2 children after you can say he is
Yes,
legit. Yeah.
he's legit. Exactly. Yeah, so we met there. I mean, of course, at the beginning, we didn't even think of being together for such a long time, right? At the beginning, it was just hanging out, chill, be friends, and okay. And somehow time just passed, and here we go, 15 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that he is has a German nationality, but he lived in Belgium.
Yes, correct. So he is German by passport. I always say that because like his mentality or the way he behaves doesn't feel like Germans, like a standard German. He's quite international, so he grew up in Belgium. He studied in the US, and then he moved to China also to learn Mandarin at the beginning. That's how we met because we were in the same school, but we went to party together. Not necessarily same school, not necessarily in the same class. So I was in the same class with his best friend back then. So that's how we kind of like group up together. We party together, and yeah, so we met there. We hang out. We became friends, and yeah, we kind of become a lover eventually. And yeah, time just passed so quickly, and then we are here.
Yeah. And at some point you're saying, okay, I now want to pursue my second degree, and now let's check everywhere else. And when we talked before, you said, hey, actually Leipzig was the cheapest. And what she was referring to is the university called HHL, which is a very established university, or I don't know if it's a university, but like a
Business
education.
school.
It's
It's a
a
business
business
school.
school. It's a management and business school, but it's, I think, one of the oldest in Europe or something like that. So it's very, very established. And I know that from different programs, and I also took a program there, not the MBA, but I know that it's actually considered, if we're comparing it to other places and other universities in Germany and in Leipzig, it's actually quite expensive because it is a private facility. And you said that was the cheapest I found, which for me was a big surprise. But but then when I had a second thought, if you're comparing that to the United States, for sure it's definitely cheaper. But it was quite surprising to see this comparison. But then you're saying, hey, I found a school, I got accepted, I decided to go, and then I'm leaving my partner in Beijing. So how was this process for you? It seems very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me get back. Let me go back again regarding the, how the affordable program is for me. Yeah, so it is true. Back then, it was not very expensive. Yeah, it was, I think, less than 30,000 euros back then. Now, probably almost double, right? Probably almost double. And the reputation just going higher and higher.
Yeah.
Right, the higher the reputation is, the more expensive the school is because you have better networks, etc. But yeah, so I compared private to private. I did not compare with the German funded or the government funded school, because the German funded school, I know a few of my friends, they have the MBA there as well. They call it also MBA, but it is funded by the government, so it is not as expensive. However, the difference is connections. I think MBA eventually the knowledge itself is very, very similar. I mean, it's business administration eventually, right? But the difference is the connection. And back then, what I was looking for is something a bit more prestigious. So yeah, I was not looking for a local one. I did not know why back then. Probably the Google ads just work better with private. I guess they have more money to put in the Google ads, right? Could be the reason.
Makes
Could be
sense.
the reason. Yeah. So Google, yeah, HSL back then, ESMT, I think, and WHU was like my top three. So yeah. So I just wanted to answer that it does not mean it's cheap, but comparing to the US or to the other places who are privately owned or privately operated, it is relatively cheap in 2015.
Right.
So right now, I don't know how much it costs, to be honest, but what I know, it is not cheap anymore. They have changed their deans, they have changed the programs, they've added a lot of programs, they have, I think, done a lot of great things. So to be honest, when I see what they're doing, I can say that I'm very proud to be alumni from the school. So just wanted to be clear on that. But of course,
Yes.
If whoever the listeners, you want to have MBA program with the German funded, it is absolutely fine. I think honestly, it's not much difference what if you're looking for knowledge. You can even find this MBA program online. You don't even have to go to school.
It depends on your goal, basically.
Yes, it is. It depends on your goal, what you're looking for. So yeah, just to answer that. Yeah. And secondly, how I took back then from going away from my husband, I think it was kind of a mixed feeling, I must say. Like, it was a mixed feeling. So we had quite, so both my husband, we both have very different personality. So I am more like I'm in the driving seat. So I want it to be done by yesterday. So that's me. So I want things to be done by yesterday. So for him, he is more on analytical, and he's more like take things slow, just step by step. So he is my kind of my bremsen, like
the brake.
So yeah, he is my brake basically. But back then in China, like, I could not take it anymore. To be honest, like, I had a lot of like sickness, mental health. Like, I was so depressed. I couldn't breathe very well as well because of the pollution in Beijing. It was so bad. Like, it was so bad. And I decided, okay, I can't take this anymore. So I quit my job immediately, and I learned GMAT and everything, whatever I needed to do. And then I went back to Indonesia for 3 months before coming to Germany. So yeah, it was hard for our relationship, to be honest. It was very shaky because it's hard when you're in different continent, in different country, different time zone as well. So it was very hard, but somehow we just manage. I think thanks to his patience, he's very patient. So if both of us, like me, I don't think we could survive. Yeah, so that's how partners should do, right? So another person should drive, the other one should brake a little bit. Yeah, so yeah, it took him a little while as well to find something here in Stuttgart. So it took him about a year as well until he found something. And yeah, he found something, and I said, okay, then I go to you. At the beginning, I hated Stuttgart so bad. Like the first 2 years, it was the worst years of my life in
Oh,
Stuttgart.
wow.
So bad. It was so bad in Stuttgart. I like Leipzig more back then. I hated Stuttgart so bad because, surprisingly, people in Stuttgart, they don't speak English. Like, yeah, in Leipzig, even old women, they can speak English so well. Like, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
I hated Stuttgart because it was so complicated, how, just to live here, the trams and the whole public transportation and everything was it's so complicated, and they speak Schwaben. So sometimes they're Germans. I just don't understand their German. So the first 2 years was miserable for me. And I was pregnant. I was learning German, it was adding up. Everything was just adding up. I didn't have friends. So everything was in the depression mode, kind of. So yeah, but after, the more you learn, I understand the language. I finally found friends, I got some community. I know how to get around without my husband's help. That was very important. Without anybody's help, I could finally be independent. That's the time when I was feeling a bit more settled. Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
About 2 years. Yeah.
Sounds very difficult, but then it seems like you are already so established that you got to the point that you're saying, I feel comfortable enough to even pursue my own business.
Absolutely. If today was a few years, like when I just arrived, I wouldn't even dare to think of building a business. First, language, like doing all the paperwork. I'm like, the German bureaucracy is very famous. Yeah, without Germans, at least the base, I wouldn't even say basic anymore. Like you don't have to be
It's a whole
fluent.
vocabulary. It's a different vocabulary. Even Germans don't understand it a lot of the time or
Yes, but at
speak
least,
it.
yes, absolutely. But at least, you know how to get around, you know how to ask people,
Yeah.
right? But if you haven't even reached to the point where you can ask people, so that was me a few years ago. I didn't even dare to start a business. I didn't even know how. I didn't even think of it. I just wanted to survive. Like, I just wanted to have, a little bit of money for living, feed my family, because one salary in Germany is not enough, right? We're just normal people. um, so I just wanted to survive back then. But yeah, so after now almost 9 years now in Germany, finally I feel comfortable, with surroundings, etc. And now I have, now moving to the next phase of my life in my career.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize something super important because for those of you who don't know, I'm the organizer of the Female Entrepreneurs and Community and Creative in Leipzig. And there I had one woman saying to me, and I remember it really vividly, yeah, I really want to become an entrepreneur, but I think I'm going to wait until my children are out of school. And you're like, that's a lot of time. Like, even if it was one child, it's 18 years. If it's more than one, it's way more than that. And you already have the spirit, you already have the motivation and the wishes to do that. There are so many ways to start without being full on like what is portrayed in Silicon Valley 24/7 in your business. There is a balance that you can create as a mom, as a mompreneur. I've heard that expression already. So there are ways to do that. And if this is something that you feel could benefit you mentally and also creatively, and something that will help you become who you are better, then it should be something to explore. And there's so many ways to do that. And especially because in Germany, there is somewhat of financial support when you're on parental leave, then you can even start building this very comfortably and easily, because a lot of people are, like what you said, no, it has to be yesterday. It was like, no, when you have the time to build it and to process it, then you can actually come much better to it when you have the right timing after the keto starts or something like that. Then I definitely encourage moms to go for it. It's important.
Absolutely. I kind of want to kind of adding up to this as well, just based on my experience. Like, I don't want to say I wish that I did this earlier. I didn't want to say it because it sounds regretting, but I don't regret my previous, career experience. I mean, this is how I got here. But, if you remember, I mentioned I applied 200 plus job applications. If back then, my German was already good enough back then, but if I had the encouragement, or I knew how to do it, or maybe I didn't know how to do it, but at least I had the encouragement to start looking, aside from looking for a job, I could have already started then. So, I always think like, there's no perfect timing. There's no perfect timing. So if you think that, your heart is saying, like, giving you sparkle, okay, really want to do something for my own, like for myself, for my family, do it. Don't wait.
Absolutely. And find the right community that will push you and help you for sure.
Absolutely.
And in every city and in every country, there is something like that. If not for moms, or if not for women, then for everybody. But just some courage juice that will support that. Dewi, we got all the way to the end. And in here, I just want to ask you for one tip for newcomers to Germany. What would that be?
Of course, language. I'm sure that is a very common tip for everybody who is coming here, although all Germans speak English. But if you want to not only survive, but to thrive here, to have a comfortable life, to be able to go around without depending on anybody, language definitely the first thing. And second will be networking, something I regretted. I didn't do it earlier, just to network with people, because not only give you more contacts, but also it opens up your eyes, what other people are doing. It gives you a lot of inspirations as well. So networking, definitely, whoever it is, you don't have to network in the German community if you don't want to, but there are a lot of international communities everywhere in Germany, something that people need to know. And lastly, I think is be open, whatever that comes. I'm sure before you come to Germany, you have some expectation. You heard a lot of things about how the Germans, etc. But to be honest, when you arrive here, it is quite different. It is quite different than the stereotypes that you hear outside of Germany. So just be open here. Be open. If you thought 5 years ago, oh, I want to come to Germany to do A, B, C, D, E, and eventually it doesn't work according to your plan, it doesn't mean that you fail. It means that you just have to redirect your direction, kind of thing. So be open. Might not be in in the expectation that you thought at the beginning, but I'm sure there are a lot of options here in Germany.
Yeah, I would add to it that maybe in the first month or two, just absorb, just like see what comes, because as you said, like a lot of people come with these expectations, and we need to know how to not fall into those places of, oh damn, that's not what I thought, then then emotions come into, but more like observe, see what happens, and adjust, and that would help you a lot more. Because I think something that a lot of people are or what I took also from your story is that if you try to fight what comes, then you are going to be miserable, because you are not going to change how a whole country is operating. So you either accept it and learn to live with it and adjust your life so that you have yourself, but yourself in a different country, that will be easier for you to survive that than to try to constantly fight it.
Yes,
So.
absolutely. And last thing is be patient.
Be patient. Learn to develop patience. That's
Not get it done by yesterday, but just get it done anytime when it's ready.
In a month's time. Yeah. Dewi, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure
Thank
to have you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll see you next time.
Absolutely. And I will see all of you in the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Why Germany. If you want to learn more about relocation, make sure to visit overtheoffect.com, your relocation experts.